Crystal chandeliers glittered above a long mahogany table, the kind only money could polish that perfectly. 5 women in diamonds and designer gowns laughed too loudly, their voices blending with the click of silverware. At the head of the table, David Langford raised a glass of champagne. "Tonight," he announced proudly, "my daughter will help me choose her new mother." Gasps turned into whispers. The flash of cameras reflected off gold plates. The Langford dinner was already trending before dessert. Beside him, little Lily sat still, her small hand gripping the sleeve of Grace, the housekeeper pouring tea behind her. Grace smiled gently, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart," before stepping back into the blur of servers, invisible as always. David leaned toward his daughter. "Go on, darling. Tell them what you think." Lily fidgeted, eyes darting between the glamorous women. "What if I don't like any of them?" she asked softly. Laughter rippled around the table. Polite? Uncomfortable? David chuckled nervously. "Then who would you choose, my dear?" Lily turned, her voice barely above a whisper. "I already have someone." And when she pointed, every glass in the room froze mid-air. After his wife's passing, David Langford buried himself in boardrooms. Meetings replaced meal times. Numbers replaced laughter. The mansion, though gleaming, echoed like a tomb. Every morning, Grace moved through that silence, dusting photos, folding linen, humming gospel tunes only the walls seemed to hear. She'd pack Lily's lunch, tuck a handwritten note inside, and smile as the girl skipped down the grand staircase. "Eat your fruit first, sweetheart," she'd whisper. "Yes, Miss Grace," Lily would grin, the same way she once smiled at her mother. David rarely noticed. He'd leave with a nod, phone to his ear, the word prophet louder than parent. To him, Grace was staff, kind but replaceable. To Lily, she was home. One evening, David's business partner leaned over a glass of scotch. "You can't stay single forever, David. The press loves a family man. Find someone refined, someone who looks the part." David nodded, weary but compliant. "Perhaps you're right." Across the hall, Grace quietly refilled their glasses. She heard every word, her hands trembling slightly on the tray. Still, she smiled, as if pain could be folded away like linen. Later that night, Lily crept into the kitchen and hugged her waist. "I don't want Daddy to marry someone mean," she whispered. Grace brushed a curl from her face, whispering back, "Then let's hope he chooses." Right. But what David didn't? No. His daughter had already made her choice long before that dinner. The dinner that began with elegance was now slipping into chaos. Crystal laughter echoed from one end of the table, but it wasn't joyful. It was competitive. Each woman leaned in, eager to outshine the others. "I host galas in Milan," one bragged. "My diamonds are from Dubai," said another. A third flipped her hair and smirked. "I don't even fly commercial anymore." Across the table, little Lily poked at her food, bored. Then, in her tiny, curious voice, she asked, "Do you know how to make pancakes?" The women blinked, confused. Lily continued, innocent but firm. "Do you like playing hide-and-seek? Or reading bedtime stories?" Soft laughter rippled, brittle, embarrassed. One woman leaned forward and said sweetly, "Oh, darling, that's what maids are for." The air froze. Even the clinking of glasses stopped. David forced a smile, clearing his throat. "Lily, that's enough, sweetheart." But his daughter's small frown said more than words could. She watched as Grace quietly approached to clean a spilled glass of juice near her, whispering, "It's okay, sweet pea." Lily stood suddenly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. "No, it's not okay," she said, trembling. Then, with her chin raised just like her mother once did, she pointed. "I already have a mom," she said softly. "She's right there." Every eye turned to Grace. The housekeeper froze mid-motion, her cloth in hand, eyes shimmering. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. One guest scoffed under her breath. "You're joking, right?" David sat in stunned silence, his wine glass shaking slightly in his hand. "What would you do if you were there? Would you support the child's heart or protect your reputation?" Reporters' flashes caught the moment. Grace's tear hit the floor just as one camera clicked. And David's reaction, caught on camera, would soon be the headline no one expected. The chandelier light flickered across the stunned faces of the guests. No one moved. The silence was heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. David Langford sat frozen, eyes darting between his daughter and the woman standing behind her. Grace tried to steady her voice, whispering, "Lily, that's enough, honey." But Lily clung tighter to her hand. "No, you said to always tell the truth." A few of the guests exchanged nervous glances, half expecting security to step in. David's jaw tightened. He felt the weight of the room, the cameras, the headlines forming in real time. He looked at Grace, humble, terrified, holding his daughter's trembling fingers, and saw something he hadn't felt in years: honesty. In Lily's tear-filled eyes, he saw his late wife's reflection, the same courage, the same innocence. Finally, he rose from his seat and said, voice calm but commanding, "Everyone, leave." The murmurs stopped. Chairs scraped. Within seconds, the glittering guests vanished, heels clicking across marble as doors slammed shut behind them. Now it was just father, daughter, and housekeeper. David knelt beside Lily, his tone breaking. "Why her, sweetheart?" Lily sniffed. "Because she loves me without wanting anything back." He turned slowly to Grace, whose tears glistened but didn't fall. For the first time, David looked beyond the uniform and saw the heart he'd overlooked. He exhaled, whispering, "Then maybe—" "You chose better than I ever could." Lily smiled through her tears. Grace's hand trembled in hers. "Share this, if you believe love and kindness will always outshine money." But before the moment could settle, Grace took a step back and whispered, voice shaking, honest, and strong. "Mr. Langford, I can't be your wife." The air froze again. Even Lily stopped breathing. Grace's words trembled through the quiet room. "Mr. Langford," she said softly, "I can't be her mother, but I'll always protect her." David looked up slowly, eyes red but calm. "Then be both," he whispered, "protector and family." Lily squeezed Grace's hand tighter. "Please don't go," she said. And for the first time, Grace didn't step back. Months passed. The mansion that once echoed with silence now hummed with life again. Mornings began with laughter and the smell of pancakes sizzling, Lily flipping them with Grace's guidance as David played old jazz tunes on the piano his wife once loved. Reporters had their story. Millionaire marries housekeeper and calls her the richest soul he's ever known. But behind those words was something deeper. Quiet mornings. Shared grief turned into strength and a home finally healed. Grace never sought luxury. She stayed humble, using her new role not to climb, but to lift. Together, she and David opened the Eleanor Foundation, named after his late wife, funding education for single mothers and children in need. At the entrance of the mansion, a small frame drawing hung on the wall. It was Lily's crayon art, 3 smiling figures holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. The title, written in her crooked handwriting, Home. One evening, as the family walked through the garden, David paused. "You know," he said, "money built these walls, but you built everything that matters inside them." Grace smiled, eyes glistening. "Sometimes, sir, all people need is to be seen." He looked at her, truly looked, and nodded. "And you showed me how." The wind carried the laughter of a child across the courtyard, soft, full, complete. Subscribe for more stories where hearts, not money, build the real legacy. What if love's truest wealth isn't found in what we own, but in who we finally see?